Alright, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about fantasy wide receivers. Now, this one shouldn't be too big a surprise to everybody. There's a bunch of wide receivers that are good and could make that number one ranking, but to me, Davante Adams leads the way. Aaron Rodgers played on one leg last year, and Davante Adams still was setting career highs across the board. 111 receptions, 169 targets, 1,386 yards, and 13 TDs on a bad, horrific year for the Packers. I expect not only Aaron Rodgers to bounce back this year, but that's going to reflect with Davante Adams' numbers, as Adams is Rodgers' number one target, his favorite target, and look for him to go to him a lot this year. And maybe Jimmy Graham might have a bit of a bounce back year this year as well, but we'll see. The only players to finish ahead of Davante Adams, I believe he's been a top 5 WR in each of the years he's played so far. I could be wrong on that one, but I'll have to do some research and double check that. But you guys can correct me if you want to. I'm sure you guys will. Double digits in the TD department should be a lot for Davante Adams this year, as he's reached that number each of his years so far. Only Antonio Brown has more TD receptions in the last 3 seasons, 36 to Davante's 35. So take that for what it is, especially if you're in a standard league where the targets and receptions, or PPR league where it might be a bit more of an advantage. He's still a top pick no matter where you are or what league you're in. Davante Adams is my number one. Number 2, DeAndre Hopkins, Houston. First time with a competent quarterback last year. It showed DeAndre improved his numbers once again. 115 receptions, 11 TD catches, over 1,500 receiving yards. He breaks tackles, got the highest percentage of his targets of all NFL receivers. The way Watson plays should open up the field. The way Watson extends plays, should open up a lot of plays for DeAndre to get loose and shake off DBs. As you ask any DB at any level, the last thing you want to do is cover a guy for more than a few seconds. Once the quarterback starts running around in the pocket and you get to make 3-4 different breaks on a DB or a corner, safety, linebacker, whoever the fuck's covering you, it's game over. And Watson will find DeAndre if and when that happens. And I expect Hopkins to vie for Adams. I think they're the 2 best wideouts in the game. They're the 2 of my favorites to watch in the game. Even though I'm a big Eagles fan, as you can tell by the Dawkins jersey today. Defense talking, wide receivers, whatever. Fuck off. Anyways, number 1 fantasy wide receiver this year should be a battle between Adams and Hopkins. So let it play out how it will. The other benefit to Hopkins this year is having a full season with a healthy Will Fuller and Kiki to complement them on the outside, or on the inside, So with those 2 drawing attention, DeAndre shouldn't have as many double teams this year as he saw towards the end of last year once those 2 went down for the season, especially Fuller not playing the year last year. That was a real big disappointment for Houston. Their season is really based on injuries this year, as is every NFL team. I realize that every season. But DeAndre comes in as my number 2 wide receiver this year. At number 3, I got Tyreek Hill. He avoided the suspension. Now, something still could creep up. The NFL has said that if any new news breaks out, they could take supplementary action and still suspend him. I don't foresee that happening, but these cases always scare me, especially with the level of toxicity, in English, that could spread from these stories. Now, hopefully Tyreek has everything straightened out and everything sorted out. And him and Mahomes have quite the chemistry going. Tyreek's young. Mahomes is young. He's one of the fastest players in the league. Mahomes has one of the strongest arms in the league. Even with regression, I still see these 2 being a top duo in the NFL. It's going to be hard to knock either one of them off. The suspension is the only reason why I got him third and not battling with Adams and DeAndre at number 1, 2. But Tyreek Hill comes in at number 3 for me. Number 4, Michael Thomas, New Orleans Saints. The Saints offense should be one of the best in the NFL, and Michael Thomas will definitely get his share. He's one of the safest bets in the NFL at the wide receiver position. He's improved in each of his first 3 seasons in the NFL. He has more receptions in his first 3 seasons in the NFL than anyone in NFL history. He has Drew Brees throwing the ball to him. What more do I really need to say? Drew Brees is phenomenal. That team puts up points year in, year out. Michael Thomas comes in at number 4. I'm a little leery to put him higher than that, but he's definitely in the conversation. Lots of offensive weapons. That's why I'm not so sure he can creep up and overtake one of my top 3, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did. Should get to double-digit TVs. He's only missed 1 game in his career. Safe top 5 or wide receiver 1 pick for your draft. Even if you don't get him in the first round, you can still get him as a WR1. Grab him up. He hit 9 TDs last year, 1,400 yards, 125 receptions. He's going to get his. He's caught 85% of the balls thrown his way. Definitely a number 1 wide receiver. And now he's the highest paid receiver in football. He's got something to prove. Look for him to put up good numbers this year as well. Number 5, Julio Jones. 5 straight years with 1,400 plus receiving yards. 113 receptions last year, over 1,600 yards. Only 8 TDs last year, though. The knock on Julio Jones in his career is he's only reached double-digit TDs once in 2012, 2013, 2012, I want to say. Again, I could be wrong. I'm just going off the top of my head, so don't hate on me for it. He saw the most targets in the NFL last year, so especially if you're in a PPR league, you might even want to bump him up a little higher with all them targets, as points per receptions are huge. He had 9.9 yards per target, which is also a big number. And how does he not score more TDs? He has such good hands. He has size. He has speed. Matt Ryan's a decent NFL quarterback, a good NFL quarterback. Why can you not get touchdowns, Julio Jones? You could be the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy if only you could reach pay dirt at double digits 10 times. Anyways, Julio Jones rounds out my top 5. He averages 100 plus yards per game in 5 of the last 6 seasons. There's a lot of honorable mentions that I did leave off my list, and you guys could argue all you want to put any of these players up there, and I ain't going to hate. Odell Beckham Jr., his injury scares me. He's missed 25% of the games he's been eligible to play since joining the league. Antonio Brown, Oakland, new team, Derek Carr. What are the Raiders really this year? Are they just drama for TV on Hard Knocks? What's the deal there? Is frostbitten feet, this and that? Is he going to be able to see properly out of his helmet? So he doesn't make my top list, but he definitely gets honorable mentions. Juju Schuster coming out of Pittsburgh. He saw over 160 targets. I believe him and Antonio Brown both saw over 160 targets in Pittsburgh last year. With no Brown there, how many of them targets does he eat up? Does he eat up any of them? Or does he stay around his 160 and maybe regress a little? I was a little hesitant to put him on my top 5 because of those reasons. Mike Evans in Tampa Bay, rotating quarterbacks. Don't know what the deal is out there. Is he going to play with the same QB all season? Mike Evans, Keenan Allen with the Chargers. I really like Allen. Not quite sure he's good enough to make the top 5, but wouldn't surprise me if he made a push for it. T.Y. Hilton, if Andrew Luck's healthy, Hilton could have another big season. He had a good one last year. He should definitely be mentioned in there. And I like Adam Thielen as well. Some of you may not. Some of you may. So be it. But I like Minnesota. I think they might bounce back. I know their quarterback. Yeah, it is what it is. Thielen would probably have made my top 5 if they had a decent quarterback. So that's why he's probably around your 8th to 12th wide receiver. Anyways, tight ends you want to look at the big 3, Kelsey, Ertz, and Kittle. Kelsey with Kansas City, he could arguably be a top 5, top 7 pick overall in fantasy, let alone just tight ends. Or you could put him ahead of many tight ends, quarterbacks, and WR1s with the production he got last year. Andy Reid loves to utilize his tight ends. Patrick Mahomes will look for him as a safety valve. He's a surefire red zone threat. He's a touchdown machine. Travis Kelce you could have ranked as high as 5th overall. I was debating on whether to put him on my WR list or whether you guys would hate on me for that. Keep tight ends separate with mention at the end like I'm doing. So here it is at the end. Zach Ertz in Philadelphia. I think his 115 targets from last year is going to drop significantly. They've added Deshaun Jackson. They drafted J. Jaw. And you've got Dallas Goedert, who could arguably start on 25 NFL teams, be their number one fucking tight end on 25 other teams. Watch Dallas Goedert, Deshaun Jackson, Jay Jaw, the way the Eagles spread the field. Their offense is so spread out and so diverse. They're so deep at every fucking position every single position except one, quarterback. So if Wentz can stay healthy, they should contend for the Super Bowl. And I've got them in New England in a rematch of Super Bowl 52 this year, but I'll get to predictions later on. I might change my mind on them, on both them, or maybe one of them. We'll see. Outside of that, I don't see any value in the tight ends being in really your top 50, 60 picks. If you want me to break down tight ends, I'll give you a bit of a breakdown, but you got to hit me up on one of my social media links if you want me to do so. Next week, I'm going to preview a bit of the NFL season. Then going forward, we're going to talk MLB playoffs because the MLB season is breaking down. Then we can start getting into some NHL talk. NBA season, MLS is winding down. I'm a sports geek. I love all sports. Anything you want me to talk about, I watch IPL, cricket, it don't matter, soccer, footy, whatever. Hit me up and I'll make sure to get it in. Anybody wants me on a show or wants to be on my show, talk some sports and shit with me, let me know. Hit me up in any of the social media links. They're all over. Peace.